大家好，我是 Jenny， 欢迎来到沉思者 J。 今天要聊的这个人活到39岁，他没有打过仗，没有统治过国家，也没有发明任何改变世界的机器，他只是坐在钢琴前，把心里的话一个音符一个音符说出来。但就是这样一个人，让200年后的我们听到他的旋律还是会掉眼泪。他叫弗雷德里克萧邦，有人叫他钢琴诗人，有人叫他波兰的灵魂。今天 Jenny 就带你走进这个传奇的一生。1810年3月，萧邦出生在波兰的热拉佐瓦沃拉，那是一个小乡村，离华沙不远。他的父亲是法国人，在波兰定居后成为一名法文老师，母亲是波兰人，出身小贵族家庭。这个家庭虽然不算富裕，但充满文化气息，家里常有音乐，常有书，常有讨论。萧邦就在这样的环境里慢慢长大。他对钢琴的天赋几乎是与生俱来的，4岁开始学琴，6岁就能弹出让大人惊叹的曲子。7岁，他创作了第一首波洛奈兹舞曲。那时候华沙的报纸已经在讨论这个神童，人们说波兰出了一个新的莫扎特，这个比较不算夸张。少年萧邦的生活有2个坐标，一个是钢琴，一个是波兰。他在华沙的音乐学校学习，老师是当时的大师约瑟夫·艾斯纳。艾斯纳很快就看出萧邦不是普通学生，他不拘泥于规则，他有自己的声音。艾斯纳在成绩单上写下一句话：非凡的天赋，非凡的才能。那个年代的波兰正处于历史最黑暗的时期之一。波兰曾被俄罗斯、普鲁士、奥地利3强瓜分。华沙当时在俄罗斯的统治之下，充满压迫。年轻的萧邦在城市里看到的是被占领的土地，是痛苦的同胞。这种感受慢慢渗进他的音乐里。1829年，19岁的萧邦前往维也纳，那是欧洲的音乐之都，是年轻音乐家必须闯荡的地方。他在那里举办了2场音乐会，反应热烈。但萧邦心里还是那个挥之不去的波兰梦。他回到华沙，准备再次出发，这一次去巴黎。1830年11月，萧邦离开华沙。他不知道这是他最后一次踏上波兰的土地。就在他到达维也纳不久，华沙爆发了起义。波兰人反抗俄罗斯的统治，但最终失败了。消息传来，萧邦悲痛欲绝。他在日记里写下：华沙沦陷了啊，我为何还活着？这种痛苦化成了著名的革命练习曲。那首曲子激烈、愤怒、哀嚎，左手在低音区翻腾，像是城市在崩溃，像是人民在哭泣。这不只是练习曲，这是一个流亡者的呐喊。1831年，萧邦抵达巴黎。他原本打算在巴黎短暂停留，再前往伦敦，但巴黎留住了他。那座城市充满光彩，充满自由，充满才华横溢的灵魂。萧邦遗嘱就是他剩下的大半生。巴黎的上流社会很快就爱上了萧邦，不是因为他高调，而是因为他优雅。他不是那种站在大舞台上征服万人的表演者，他更喜欢在沙龙里，在几十个人的亲密空间里，轻轻地弹奏。他的演奏像是在说悄悄话，你必须靠近才能听见。在巴黎的第1年，萧邦认识了许多改变他命运的人。李斯特，那个匈牙利钢琴天才，成为他最好的朋友之一。2个人的风格截然不同，一个像台风，一个像月光，但他们惺惺相惜，互相欣赏。李斯特后来说，萧邦是有史以来最独特的钢琴家。这句话分量不轻。萧邦在巴黎的生活主要靠教琴维持，他的学生大多是贵族家的子弟和名媛。他是个要求严格的老师，但也是个温柔的老师。他不喜欢学生弹得太用力，他说，钢琴是有声音的诗，不是战场。在巴黎，他的创作爆发力惊人。夜曲、马祖卡、波洛奈兹、华尔兹、叙事曲，一首接着一首。他的夜曲是最能代表萧邦灵魂的作品之一。那种深夜的寂静，那种无法言说的情感，只有在他的音符里才找得到。有人说，听萧邦的夜曲 就像看着窗外的月亮，说不出为什么，眼泪就来了。马祖卡舞曲则是他对波兰的思念，那是一种波兰传统舞曲，萧邦把它升华成一种艺术形式。他写了50多首马祖卡，每一首都带着故乡的气息，那是他用音符写的情书，寄给他再也回不去的地方。1836年，萧邦在巴黎认识了一个特别的人，他叫奥罗尔·杜德旺，但更多人认识他的笔名乔治桑。那是一位法国女作家，大胆、自由，充满个性。她抽雪茄，穿男装，在保守的社会里，活得像一场叛逆。萧邦和乔治桑是一个奇特的组合，一个是敏感、多病、内敛的钢琴家，一个是强势、热情、笔锋犀利的作家，但两个人偏偏就在一起了。这段关系维持了将近10年。1838年冬天，两人带着乔治桑的孩子前往西班牙马略卡岛。那次旅行原本是为了萧邦的健康，他的肺已经开始出问题，但马略卡岛的天气潮湿，住所也不理想，萧邦的病情反而加重了。就是在那个潮湿寒冷的冬天，萧邦完成了24首前奏曲，那是他最神秘、最深沉的作品之一。每一首都短小，但每一首都像一个梦，有的温柔，有的忧郁，有的狂暴，合在一起是一个灵魂的全貌。回到巴黎后，萧邦的生活在乔治桑庄园的夏天和巴黎的冬天之间交替。那几年是他创作最丰盛的时期，他完成了3首奏鸣曲，第2号奏鸣曲里的送葬进行曲至今仍是最著名的葬礼旋律之一，第3号奏鸣曲则被许多人视为他的告别之作。萧邦的波洛奈兹舞曲是他对波兰最热烈的宣告，第6号祥 A 大调波洛奈兹，人们叫他英雄波洛奈兹，那种壮阔，那种不屈，让你听了热血沸腾。那是一个流亡者用音符召唤故乡的尊严。在艺术上，萧邦是个完全的革命者，他不走前人的老路，他开创自己的语言，他拓展了和声的边界，让钢琴有了前所未有的表达方式。他是第一个系统性的为钢琴写作的作曲家之一，他的作品几乎全部都是钢琴曲，这在当时是个不寻常的选择，但他就是相信钢琴足够了。1847年，萧邦和乔治桑的关系破裂了，确切原因至今仍有争议。有人说是因为乔治桑的子女问题，有人说是因为两人个性的长期摩擦。总之，那次分离对萧邦的打击是巨大的，他的健康开始急速恶化。1848年，欧洲爆发革命浪潮，萧邦前往英国和苏格兰演出。那次旅行耗尽了他仅剩的力气，他每演出一次就要卧床好几天，但他还是继续，因为他需要钱，因为他需要音乐。1849年，萧邦回到巴黎，已是强弩之末。他的姐姐路德维卡从波兰赶来陪伴他。那个秋天，萧邦知道自己快到了，他对身边的人说：“请把我的心带回波兰。”1849年10月17日，弗雷德里克萧邦在巴黎辞世，他39岁。他的身体留在巴黎的拉雪兹神父公墓，他的心脏按照遗愿被带回了华沙，那颗心就封在华沙圣十字教堂的一根柱子里。萧邦的葬礼在巴黎马德莱纳教堂举行，演奏的正是他在奏鸣曲里写下的送葬进行曲。几千人赶来送别，包括当时最杰出的音乐家和艺术家。那是一个时代在低头。萧邦一生中几乎不接受大型公开演出，他的演奏留在沙龙，留在私人场合。他生前正式的公开演出加起来不超过30场，但他的影响力远远超越任何一个每晚登台的表演者，因为他的音符比他的身体活得更长。我们今天听到的钢琴音乐有很大一部分都站在萧邦的肩膀上，从德布西到拉赫曼尼诺夫，从20世纪的爵士到今天的流行，那种对钢琴细腻表达的追求，那种用旋律说诗的方式，都有萧邦的影子。波兰人对萧邦的感情是一种民族的骄傲。华沙的萧邦国际钢琴大赛每5年举办一次， 是全球最权威的钢琴比赛之一。每次比赛，全世界最顶尖的年轻钢琴家都来争夺那个萧邦之名的荣耀。这个传统从1927年延续至今。萧邦的音符是一种语言，不需要翻译，不分国界，不问年龄。你可以不懂波兰文，但你听到降一小调夜曲，还是能感受到那份孤寂。你可以不了解19世纪的历史，但你听到英雄波洛奈兹，还是能感受到那种热血。这就是音乐的力量，也是萧邦的力量。他的一生短暂，却如此完整。他没有浪费任何一刻，他把所有的感受都化成了音符。爱情、乡愁、愤怒、温柔、孤独、信念，全都在那里，等着你用耳朵去阅读。有一个故事 Jenny 很喜欢。萧邦临终前，身边的人问他还有什么心愿。他说，我希望我的旋律能让人在孤独的时候感觉有人陪伴。我不知道这个故事是否完全真实，但我知道他做到了。每一个深夜坐在钢琴前的人都知道萧邦在那里。你可以不喜欢古典乐，但试试萧邦的夜曲。找一个安静的夜晚，闭上眼睛，让那些音符流过去。也许你会哭，也许你只是静静地听着。不管如何，你都会明白为什么200年后我们还在谈论它。今天的沉思者 J 带你走过了萧邦的一生，一个用钢琴说话的人，一个用旋律爱着波兰的人，一个把灵魂全部献给音符的人。他的故事告诉我们，伟大的艺术不需要很长的寿命，只需要完全的燃烧。谢谢你今天陪 Jenny 走这一段路。如果你也被萧邦打动了，记得按赞订阅，让更多人听见这个故事。我们下次见咯。Hello everyone, I'm Jenny. Welcome to Thinker J. Today I want to tell you about a man who lived to be only 39 years old. He never fought in a war, never ruled a country, and never invented anything that changed the world in a mechanical sense. He simply sat at the piano and told the world what was in his heart, one note at a time. And yet, 200 years later, his music still brings us to tears. His name was Frederic Chopin. Some called him the poet of the piano. Others called him the soul of Poland. Today, I want to take you on a journey through this extraordinary life. In March of 1810, Chopin was born in Zelazowa, a small village not far from Warsaw. His father was French, having settled in Poland and built a career as a French language teacher. His mother was Polish, from a minor noble family. The household was not wealthy, but it was rich in culture. Music filled the rooms, books lined the shelves, and conversations sparked with ideas. This was the world that shaped the young Chopin. His gift for the piano seemed almost miraculous from the very beginning. He started learning at 4 years old. By the age of 6, he was already producing sounds that left adults speechless. At 7, he composed his first polonaise. The newspapers of Warsaw were already talking about this child prodigy. People said Poland had produced a new Mozart. That comparison, as bold as it sounds, was not far from the truth. As a young man, Chopin's life revolved around two things: the piano and Poland. He studied at the Warsaw School of Music under the great teacher Joseph Elsner. Elsner saw almost immediately that his student was no ordinary pupil. Chopin did not follow rules he found unnecessary. He was already forming his own musical voice. Elsner wrote in his assessment of young Chopin, exceptional talent, exceptional genius. The Poland of that era was living through one of its darkest chapters. The country had been partitioned among Russia, Prussia, and Austria for decades. Warsaw was under Russian rule, and the atmosphere was heavy with oppression. The young Chopin grew up watching his homeland endure humiliation and control. That pain worked its way quietly into his music. In 1829, 19-year-old Chopin traveled to Vienna. That city was the musical capital of Europe, the arena where young musicians had to prove themselves. He gave 2 concerts there, both to tremendous enthusiasm. But Poland never left his heart. He returned to Warsaw, and then began preparing for his next journey, this time to Paris. In November of 1830, Chopin left Warsaw. He had no way of knowing that he would never set foot in Poland again. Shortly after his arrival in Vienna, Warsaw erupted in an uprising. The Polish people had risen against Russian rule. The uprising was crushed. When the news reached Chopin, he was devastated. He wrote in his notes, "Warsaw has fallen. Oh, why am I still alive?" That anguish poured itself into one of his most famous works, the revolutionary Etude. It is a piece of ferocious intensity, furious and heartbroken at the same time. The left hand crashes through the lower registers like a city collapsing, like people weeping. This was not merely an exercise in technique. This was the cry of an exile. In 1831, Chopin arrived in Paris. He had originally planned to pass through briefly on his way to London. But Paris captured him completely. The city was luminous, free, and full of brilliant artistic spirits. Chopin would stay there for the rest of his life. Parisian high society fell in love with Chopin almost immediately. Not because he was flashy or loud, but because he was elegant in a way they had rarely encountered. He was not the kind of performer who conquered vast concert halls. He preferred intimate salons, playing for dozens rather than thousands. His performance style was like a whisper, something you had to lean in close to hear. In his first years in Paris, Chopin met people who would shape his destiny. Franz Liszt, the Hungarian piano genius, became one of his closest friends. The two could not have been more different in their approach to music. One was a tempest, the other was moonlight. But they admired each other deeply. Liszt later said that Chopin was the most unique pianist who had ever lived. Coming from Liszt, that meant a great deal. Chopin supported himself in Paris primarily through teaching. His students were mostly from aristocratic families, young men and women of privilege. He was a demanding teacher, but also a gentle one. He did not like his students to play too forcefully. He believed the piano was a poem with sound, not a battlefield. During those Parisian years, his creative energy was extraordinary. Nocturnes, mazurkas, polonaises, waltzes, ballades, one after another they came. His nocturnes are perhaps the works that best capture the essence of who Chopin was. That sense of stillness in the deep of night, that emotion too vast and subtle for ordinary words. You can only find it in his notes. People say that listening to a Chopin nocturne is like watching the moon through a window. You cannot explain why, but the feeling arrives anyway, and sometimes it brings tears with it. His mazurkas were his love letters to Poland. The mazurka is a traditional Polish dance form, but Chopin elevated it into a refined art. He wrote more than 50 of them, and each one carries the fragrance of his homeland. They were, in the deepest sense, poems addressed to a place he could never return to. In 1836, Chopin met someone who would change his life in a very different way. Her name was Aurore Dudevant, but the world knew her by her pen name, George Sand. She was a French novelist, bold and unconventional and fiercely independent. She smoked cigars, wore men's clothing, and lived in defiance of the conventions of her time. Chopin and George Sand made an unlikely pair. He was sensitive, frequently ill, and deeply introverted. She was forceful, passionate, and sharp-tongued. And yet, they fell into a relationship that would last nearly 10 years. In the winter of 1838, the two traveled with George Sand's children to the island of Majorca off the coast of Spain. The trip was intended to help Chopin's deteriorating health. But Majorca was damp and the accommodations were poor. His condition worsened rather than improved. It was in that cold and damp winter that Chopin completed his 24 preludes. They remain among his most mysterious and deeply felt works. Each one is brief, but each one feels like a dream. Some are tender, some are melancholy, some are violent. Together, they form a complete portrait of a soul. After returning to Paris, Chopin divided his time between summers at George Sand's country estate and winters in the city. Those years were his most productive as a composer. He completed 3 sonatas, and the funeral march from his second sonata became one of the most recognized pieces of music ever written. His third sonata is considered by many to be his farewell to the world. His polonaises were his most passionate declarations of love for Poland. The 6th polonaise in a flat major, known as the heroic polonaise, still sends electricity through anyone who hears it. That grandeur, that refusal to be defeated. It is the sound of an exile calling up the dignity of a people who had been crushed but not broken. Artistically, Chopin was a complete revolutionary. He did not follow the established paths of his predecessors. He invented his own musical language. He pushed the boundaries of harmony further than almost anyone before him. He was among the first composers to dedicate himself almost entirely to writing for the piano. Most of his works are for piano alone, a choice that was unusual in his time. But he believed completely in what the piano could say, and he was right. In 1847, the relationship between Chopin and George Sand came to an end. The exact reasons are still debated by historians and music lovers alike. Some point to conflicts involving her children, others to the long accumulation of personal tensions. Whatever the cause, the separation hit Chopin with devastating force. his health began to decline sharply. In 1848, as revolutionary upheaval swept across Europe, Chopin traveled to England and Scotland to give concerts. It was an exhausting journey that drained what little strength he had left. After each performance he would spend days recovering in bed. But he continued, because he needed the income and because music was the only language in which he could still speak. In 1849, Chopin returned to Paris for the last time. His sister Ludwika came from Poland to be by his side. That autumn, Chopin knew the end was near. He told those around him, "Please take my heart back to Poland." On October 17 of 1849, Frederic Chopin died in Paris. He was 39 years old. His body was buried at the Père Lachaise cemetery in Paris. But his heart, as he had requested, was taken back to Warsaw. It rests to this day inside a pillar of the Church of the Holy Cross in Warsaw. His funeral was held at the Church of the Madeleine in Paris. The music played was the funeral march he himself had written. Thousands came to say farewell, including the greatest musical and artistic minds of the age. It was an era bowing its head. Throughout his life, Chopin rarely performed in large public venues. He preferred salons and intimate settings. The total number of his formal public performances in his lifetime is generally counted at fewer than 30. And yet his influence reached further than any nightly performer could have imagined. Because his notes outlived his body by a very long measure. The piano music we hear today owes an enormous debt to Chopin. From Debussy to Rachmaninoff, from 20th century jazz to contemporary popular music. That pursuit of delicate expression through the keyboard, that way of turning melody into poetry, all of it carries Chopin's fingerprints. The Polish people hold Chopin with a tenderness that goes beyond admiration for an artist. He is a symbol of national identity. The International Chopin Piano Competition held in Warsaw every 5 years is one of the most prestigious piano competitions in the world. Young pianists from every corner of the globe gather to compete in his name. This tradition began in 1927 and continues to this day. Chopin's notes are a language that needs no translation. They cross borders and generations and speak to anyone willing to listen. You do not need to understand Polish to feel the loneliness in his E-flat minor nocturne. You do not need to know 19th century history to feel the fire in the heroic Polonaise. This is the power of music. This is the power of Chopin. His life was short, but it was complete in a way few lives managed to be. He did not waste a moment. He turned everything, love, longing, rage, tenderness, solitude, conviction, into sound. It is all there, waiting for you, to be read with your ears. There is a story I love, though I cannot be certain of every detail. It is said that near the end of his life, someone asked Chopin what he hoped for most. He answered that he hoped his music would keep people company in their loneliness. Whether or not every word of that story is perfectly accurate, I believe the sentiment is true. And I know he succeeded. Every person who has ever sat alone in the night and heard a Chopin nocturne knows that he is there. You do not have to be a fan of classical music. Just try one of his nocturnes. Find a quiet evening, close your eyes, and let the notes pass through you. You might cry. You might simply sit in silence and listen. Either way, you will understand why, 200 years later, we are still talking about him. Today on Thinker J, we have walked through the life of Frederic Chopin. A man who spoke through the piano. A man who loved Poland through melody. A man who gave everything he had to the language of sound. His story reminds us that greatness does not require a long life. It only requires that you burn completely. Thank you for walking this road with me today. If Chopin moved something in you, please like and subscribe and help more people hear this story. See you next time.